Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Buenos días. Esta es la sala de español. ¿Me escuchan? Hola, buenos días.
to the 6th Climate Bonds Conference. We are so pleased that you are joining us from all over the world. Every year, we gather thousands of influential people and organizations to discuss the evolution of sustainable finance. This year, our focus is on the urgency and scale of action required to meet our collective 2030 targets and ultimately net zero by 2050 to avoid catastrophic climate impacts. All stakeholders across the global economy are facing a pivotal moment to extend work beyond short-term recovery from COVID-19 pandemic to dramatically reduce carbon emissions and build real resilience. To put this in context, we need to raise $1 trillion per year in green investments to achieve these targets. This is the second time we are hosting our conference online, allowing us to welcome over 3,000 people from nearly 100 countries to join these important discussions. We've organized 37 sessions in different formats, ranging from live panel discussions to interviews with 95 speakers. Together, these make up a packed 5-day program filled with opportunities for you to engage. This year, we're proud that our conference has been independently evaluated for continuing professional development purposes by the CPD certification service. Looking at the week ahead, there is plenty opportunity for learning and discussion. Today, we'll kick off the conference with the training day. This offers conference participants a series of useful short masterclasses. The program includes all you need to know about the Climate Bond Certification Scheme, as well as details on how to issue specific label bonds, a deep dive into reporting best practices, and a special guest workshop. Tomorrow is the Markets Day, where we look beyond the $1 trillion challenge. We'll journey through the latest topics, exploring the global market's reaction to the growth of sustainable debt instruments, the booming green issuance, and the growing demand for transparency in reporting and data. On Wednesday, we'll spotlight our regional teams around the globe, diving into regional and local action and opportunities in ASEAN, Africa, Brazil, and the US. Thursday is our Global Day, where we'll get stuck into the concept of the 2030 Green Window, with a focus on international cooperation required to deliver net zero emissions. Our final
Hola,
day is our
probando,
Key Day.
cabina de español,
The transition
probando.
work was launched last
Nos
year's
oyen,
conference.
nos
This
oyen.
transition work
Probando,
aims to give
probando,
insights into the evolution in
probando la cabina de
sustainable
español.
finance market that are opening up
Ah,
opportunities for financing the
bueno,
low carbon transition
¿listo?
and
¿Listo,
share the
Mari?
latest thinking
Probando.
on key sectors that need to undergo the biggest transformations. You'll see that we're using the Swapcard online event platform to deliver a first-class virtual conference experience. Using this as your portal to the conference, you can access the live webinar sessions, interact in a live Q&A segment with the speakers, visit virtual exhibitor booth, and of course, network with fellow attendees using the community message board. We're pleased to announce that all our
Hola,
live
Mari,
webinars
probando,
are in
probando,
English, with live
probando, cabina de
translation
español,
available in
probando,
Spanish,
sonido, 1, 2, 3,
Portuguese,
4,
French,
sonido,
and
probando,
Mandarin. Japanese translation is available on
probando.
Thursday and Friday. We understand that not everyone can join every session, and we will therefore make all session recordings available on Swapcard until the middle of November. On behalf of the Climate Bonds team, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors. Because of you, we can make this event available to so many participants this year. Our conference sponsors include JP Morgan, Citi, Ping An of China Asset Management Hong Kong, Credit Suisse, the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, Moody's ESG Solutions, BNP Paribas, Allianz Bernstein, FSD Africa, IHS Market, the Inter-American Development Bank, the International Capital Market Association, Mizuho, Refinitiv, IFC and the Green Bond Technical Assistance Program, Ashurst, Caixin, Eco-Business, Environmental Finance, Investment and Pensions Europe, Kanga News, Responsible Investor, Sustaina Bonds, and the Climate Investment Coalition. I also like to thank our speakers for their commitment to our mission and for giving their time and knowledge in helping us deliver a conference with a cause. Likewise, thanks to each and every member of the audience for joining us, sharing your expertise and experiencing, and of course, supporting the Climate Bonds Initiative. It goes without saying that Climate Bonds is proud to host this conference every year. We're so grateful to our funders as well as our global team of passionate and hardworking individuals. The conference required enormous dedication and teamwork. I therefore like to send a heartfelt thank you to everyone who played a role in putting together such an outstanding program. A very special thanks to Alicia, our head of events and training, and Mari, our regional head of communications and media, for going above and beyond. With an exciting program ahead, I wish each of our guests, sponsors, staff, and supporters the very best this week. Together, we will spearhead the path to a sustainable future for the generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to this session. We are privileged, excited here to have Citi as a sponsor for the Climate Bonds Conference. And we're going to talk for a little bit now to Val Smith, who's Chief Sustainability Officer for Citi globally, about the work they're doing and how they're seeing what goes on. And of course, I want to grill her on what's really going on. Val, look, you're in an extraordinary position because you've got a new CEO that came in this year and made a speech that I can only describe as electrifying markets in terms of its ambition and its comments about climate change and the need to transition. It was very exciting. But what does this mean practically? I mean, has anyone changed? Everyone just still going into work, usually in their kitchen nowadays because of COVID, but whatever, still going to work and doing the normal stuff, or are things actually changing in the bank? Tell us the story.
Yeah, I think, the story behind Jane Fraser's announcement on her first day as CEO, which was that Citi would be net zero emissions by 2050, and we're also committing to net zero operations by 2030, is that there was a lot of hard work and discussion and debate, frankly, that went into that decision and that big announcement prior. And there's a lot of hard work that's happened since then. So as we were going into Jane's first day as CEO and talking about this commitment, and she made the decision to make this part of her day one announcement and priorities. Day one. So this was her day one announcement as CEO, and we knew that this was going to be a pretty monumental change for Citi. We knew it was going to also necessitate a monumental change for our clients. I think going in, Jane talked a lot about the need both for ambition, but also for rolling up our sleeves and doing the hard work of helping our clients to transition and thus transitioning our own business. Since that announcement, and I can get into more detail, but we have formed a net zero task force that pulls seniors from across the company into like a net zero community, if you will, that is learning and understanding how to execute on this commitment. I think it's fair to say that as much as we understood going into this, the sort of intensity of the work and the technical challenge of establishing your net zero plan and then of helping your clients to begin to understand how they're going to transition and what proof points we're going to ask for along the way. the technical challenge is real. So it's been pretty exciting to sort of dive into those details, but it's also required and will continue to require an incredible amount of capacity building as this flows through our bank and as our clients are also taking up the mantle.
And to what extent have the clients taken up the mantle? Has been the reaction amongst your huge client base?
Well, I think we had some clients that were already ahead of us. And obviously there was a fair amount of analysis of where our clients already were before we made this commitment. So some clients are ahead of us and we have been learning from them. For example, on the topic of climate scenarios and what scenarios are out there, how some of our clients in the energy sector, for example, have been doing climate scenario analysis for years. Some clients are, I think, in the middle, understanding the level of ambition required perhaps, but still early days in terms of understanding how to execute on that ambition and frankly, understanding the options for business model transition. And I think some of our clients are going to need a lot of support and a lot of capacity building as they begin to understand how to transition. So if you think about Citi's particular global footprint, we're the most global bank in the world, and you think about what that means in terms of our clients in emerging markets, there is a lot of work ahead of us as a community and certainly for Citi to begin to help those banks, begin to help our clients, including some banks, frankly, to understand the metrics required to transition and to begin to think through those opportunities.
I mean, part of this is also how you structure a deal that can work given someone's got a big transition, often a very high CapEx load, even though CapEx is relatively low cost nowadays. You've got to make sure the returns are there. And I guess that's your whole business development, business advice, structuring side. There's lots of corners of Citi that must be having to be mobilized now.
Right.
Which means you've got a big internal job, right? Especially as Chief Sustainability Officer.
A big internal job. I mean, I have to say, our bankers are definitely up to the challenge. And if you look at how I think it's fair to say that the green bond space, which Sean, you and your organization pioneered and continue to pioneer, that really was the big shift in terms of looking at sustainable finance as a whole and looking at those products.
Right.
So I think as we think about our clients transitioning, there's a piece of it that is around getting better metrics. Our clients have to develop better metrics, disclose better metrics. We all have to sort of get better at understanding how to measure our progress in our transition. And then there's a big role for sustainable finance products and for sustainable finance advisory. And put transition in front of sustainable for transition finance products and transition finance advisory. So the bonds market is really what pioneered that, right? Because now as you see, as you look across, for example, all of Citi's different businesses from debt to equity capital markets to our trade finance team, they are all looking at how we sort of put an ESG or sustainable or transition lens on every product out there that we offer to clients. I don't think that's a huge exaggeration to say, and when you think about the opportunity, you put up the guardrails, right? Defining, for example, as CBI did, defining what's green in the bond market. Mm-hmm. You put up those guardrails, and then the ability to sort of innovate and execute within that, I think, is pretty incredible. And so that's what we're seeing inside Citi, that integration and flow of information around what's possible through to client products. Take that, marry it up with the bespoke, one-on-one advisory to get that transformation to happen. And that's how I think it's going to evolve.
Val, you have made my day. This is so exciting. I mean, I know it's hard work. I appreciate there's a lot of work, but just the fact that you're telling me that it's going across multiple areas of the business is what we want to see for those of us, climate activists needing to address climate change and address the risks of climate change. it is just music to my ears. And I want to actually phone up the Fed now and tell them about this because, of course, they're looking at climate risk, as central banks around the world need to be looking at. But you said something very interesting, at least to our audience, which is about green bonds being a bit of a kicker for this whole work. And just explain what you mean a bit more about that, because I want to drive the message home to everyone.
Okay. Absolutely. And I will just say that I'm not saying this because this is the opening of the Climate Bonds Conference.
Thank you for that.
I think we make this point often, which is as you look back, Sean, at, pre-green bond principles, right? Your organization was beginning to develop the framework for a whole host of different sustainable bond opportunities across industries. Mm-hmm. But what we realized is that what the market needed is some definitioning and some guardrails. And I think the green bond principles helped to provide that.
Yep.
And helped to get us used to thinking about financial products, not just as plain vanilla financial products, but as products where you could put like the green on top of, the social on top of, and, increasingly the integrated ESG on top of. So we've just taken that model through the financial system. I think we're not done. I think there's a lot more work to do in terms of really tightening up, how are we defining green? How are we defining transition and so on? But that framework, I think, is what we are taking to the KPI linked, loan model, for example, taking through our trade finance, sustainable supply chain finance, like that sort of ethic of looking at, putting the green lens on different products, I think began with CBI as well as the green bond principles.
And by the way, full credit needs to be given to Mike Eckhart, who used to be at Citi before he retired.
Absolutely.
He was one of the drivers of the green bond principles. But the interesting thing is, essentially, we got some basic deal flow going that's created business lines. And what some of my friends in banking are saying is this is proven to management that there really is a business line and investor appetite here, which has then opened up the doors to be able to do more. Is that how it worked in Citi?
That is how it's worked in Citi. And I think for Citi, yes, like there's an element of the risk piece in here, understanding climate risk, understanding different types of sustainability risk, and the challenges that presents to Citi and to our clients. But I think opportunity is naturally sort of a longer term motivator for human beings, including bankers. And
absolutely right.
And so what we've done at Citi is begin to sort of reorganize our business units to be positioned for the opportunity. I've been at Citi for 17 years, always in the sustainability function here. And the amount of change we've seen in the last 3 years is like kind of awesome. We have just to give you a couple of examples, about a year ago during the peak of COVID, we established a sustainability and corporate transitions team within our banking group to look at all kinds of transition and, play that advisory role to our clients as they seek to, ratchet up their ESG performance. This year, we reorganized our business groups, focusing on the energy, power, and chemicals businesses into a single unit, the natural resources and clean energy transition team. These are obviously interesting business names for, banking teams. But I think more than that, it signals, first of all, how we see the transition opportunity as being very integrated as you look at the different ways that our clients are planning to transition their business models. And it requires a completely different mindset on the part of our bankers. And, just to get back to this training piece, it requires a different kind of capacity building. And so when I look at, for example, our partners in our net zero journey, it's not just the ESG teams in Citi, that we have embedded in different businesses, It is also those traditional banking teams that are right there with us doing the hard work of figuring out where our clients are today and figuring out where we need to help them to get to.
And I guess that's the point, isn't it? It's addressing the challenges, addressing the risks, but mostly taking advantage of these opportunities that are opening up through this transition. You mentioned transition a few times, and obviously there's a lot of high carbon, and as you know, one of the themes of this conference is about taking high carbon companies to the kind of place they've got to be in this transition. How much are you getting reception from the high carbon sector of the market, which has generally been challenged and found it tough to figure out what they should be doing? Is it positive? Is the engagement happening now, or is it still a bit of work to be done? What do you think?
The engagement is definitely happening now, and there is quite a bit of work to be done. Both of those things are true. I've been impressed with the receptivity and the understanding of our clients in the hardest to transition sectors. And it's opened up, I'm not going to pretend that it's opened up conversations that are always easy, but I think it's opened up conversations that are pretty open and authentic, frankly. And, they go something like this. And the conversations are a little bit different with the leaders in the transition space versus the companies
contra las empresas que están organizándose para comprender sus oportunidades de transición. Pero siempre que ocurren cambios, la comunicación y comprender las expectativas de los demás son importantes. Y lo mismo está pasando ahora. Nuestro compromiso con cero emisiones ha traído un nuevo tipo de involucración por parte de las partes interesadas. Nos ha ayudado a comprender qué significa cerrar el grifo para estas empresas, a comprender qué los clientes nos van a pedir para que nos preparemos. Hay una carrera hacia la cumbre en el sector financiero y eso tiene que ver con la involucración de los socios y a cómo comunicar nuestras intenciones. Y tiene que ver con ponerse a trabajar. James dijo el primer día que habíamos firmado ese compromiso y que estábamos trabajando arduamente con nuestros clientes. Trabajar arduamente es un mensaje importante respecto a lo que estamos haciendo de trabajo. Y a nuestros clientes les decimos que vamos a trabajar arduamente con ellos. Y de parte de ellos escuchamos que están listos para empezar estas conversaciones difíciles y hacer elecciones difíciles. No voy a decirles que no me ha impresionado la cantidad de clientes que nos preguntan, ¿qué podemos hacer? ¿Qué podemos esperar para que podamos trabajar correctamente? Bueno, hoy el tema es entrenamiento, el tema de nuestra sesión es entrenamiento. Y usted ha probado que apoya la capacitación en esta fase de transición para que la gente pueda aprovechar las oportunidades que surgen. Es una historia muy interesante. El viernes hablaremos de transición y el jueves John Morton nos va a hablar de las oportunidades. Es muy entusiasmante que a la gente le interese esto para obtener retorno sostenible. Creo que tenemos ahora que concluir esta charla. Podríamos seguir hablando durante horas, pero en otro momento vamos a volver a hablar de este tema. Ahora, voy a pedirle que a quienes nos escuchan les dé su consejo en este sentido. Quiero subrayar que no pensamos en esto como usar antes y usar después. Yo soy un competidor Y pienso en esto en términos de prepararse para una carrera. Acuérdense de las Olimpiadas y de las maratonas, y me gusta mucho la historia de la gran resiliencia que se requiere para llegar a la meta en una maratón. Y lo mismo pasa en todas las esferas de nuestra vida. El mensaje que me gustaría dejarles es que el maratón es la ambición, pero por detrás de esa ambición hay una gran cantidad de trabajo arduo y no es un trabajo que puedas hacer de manera aislada. Comprender las necesidades de datos y los impactos y comprender los productos financieros disponibles, como por ejemplo toda la gama de títulos que existen. Yo a mis colegas del sector financiero les dejo el siguiente consejo. Hay muchos foros teniendo lugar con capacitación donde se pueden enterar de este tema. Es muy importante aprovechar estas oportunidades. Y creo que a nuestros clientes yo les aconsejaría que les digan que nos tienen que responsabilizar, nos tienen que hacer responsables. Tener ambición es importante, salir adelante es importante, y esta implementación y la fase de integración son increíbles. Y es en esta fase donde tiene lugar el trabajo arduo y toda la animación por detrás de las bambanillas es real. Entonces, les diría que aprovechen esta oportunidad para capacitarse y para comprender las oportunidades que ofrece la transición y que trabajen para acelerar estas áreas.
I can only feel joy at the words you're saying, Val. It's so
Me
exciting. Honestly.
estoy muy contento
Can
por
imagine we could have
escuchar
this conversation
tus
5 years
palabras.
ago now.
¿Podríamos haber tenido esta charla hace 5 años? No, no. Esta charla no la podríamos haber tenido 5 años atrás, para que se den cuenta de cómo las cosas avanzan muy rápidamente.
The problems we're having in the
Bueno,
world and the climate impacts, we're feeling the impacts now. We need
debido a
help.
todo lo que está ocurriendo en el mundo, necesitamos toda la ayuda
I appreciate you
posible
challenging. I also
para
think we need
alimentar nuestra
everybody,
esperanza.
essentially
Gracias por los
bringing everyone
comentarios,
with us.
principalmente
This is how we
sobre
make the rise.
invitar a todos a
We're focusing on
trabajar con
transition with
nosotros
everyone
y
to give opportunities for all, which includes
para que
citizens,
todos
ordinary
tengan
people, as well as
la
companies
oportunidad,
wherever
no
they
solo
operate.
las empresas que,
It's very clear, Val.
que
Thank you.
actúan en el área, sino también los
What we
ciudadanos.
need
Muchas
is to
gracias
give all of us
y
an
buena
opportunity
suerte.
to rise.
Necesitamos que
Will
ustedes
we, as
tengan
climate bonds,
éxito, no solo
continue
nosotros
on
en Climate
working with you
Bonds,
on
sino
transition
todos los
finance
habitantes del
and
planeta. Y de
insurance?
nuestra parte seguiremos
Of course,
trabajando con
the green bond
ustedes
market, that is
en esta
really
fase de
speeding up.
transición.
We're going to hit about $2 trillion outstanding by the end
Vamos
of this
a
year.
alcanzar
It's
3
getting
trillones
substantial.
de dólares
Citi is a
y
key part of that.
está creciendo mucho, y Citi es un aliado de nosotros. Gracias, Sean. Es un honor ser un aliado de ustedes en Climate Bonds. Gracias.